The hospital was too clean for a place that held so much death. White lights burst overhead, nurses walked briskly, doctors whispered in corners, and somewhere in the chaos you were on the floor, your knees pressed against the cold marble tiles outside the ICU. Your hands wouldn't stop shaking. Your parents had just died, and it didn't even feel real yet. One moment they were on their way back from your college performance, the next, twisted metal, blood, and silence. You pressed your forehead to your knees, biting your lips so hard it bled, but no amount of pain could drown out their voices, the ones that came from behind you like snakes hissing in the dark. We told them to stop spoiling you. See what happened now. Two funerals and one curse left behind. Don't even think about coming to our house. We are not taking you in. Bad luck, just like your birth. You didn't cry louder, just quieter, more hopelessly. You had no one, no family, no money, not even a place to sleep tonight. But there was someone who was watching you from afar, leaning silently against the corridor wall, a man in a black coat, his dark eyes locked on your shivering frame. John Jungkook had come to the hospital to visit a client. He hated hospitals. He hated the smell, the memories. He usually walked fast, kept his head down, and never ever got involved in other people's pain. But this time he couldn't move because he saw something in you, a reflection of himself. After a while, he got a call, so taking one last glance at you, he left. You slowly rose to your feet. Your heart was so heavy, the realization finally hit you that your parents weren't coming back. You sat outside the hospital, staring at nothing. Your body was freezing, your stomach empty. You didn't even know how you got there. Everything felt numb. You flinched when you heard footsteps. You are going to catch a cold sitting like that. You looked up, he stood there, tall, composed, almost too composed for someone who existed in the same cruel world. I'm fine, you whispered, your voice was hoarse. You're not, he said simply. You hated how his voice sounded calm, how he didn't offer pity, just quiet truth. Mister, can you please leave me alone? I'm going through a lot right now. The pain in your voice made his heart ache. This happened after so many years. He was known to be a cold, heartless man, but right now, his cold heart was breaking for you. Look, I saw what happened in there, and I'm sorry for what it's worth. You swallowed, staring down at your dirt-streaked palms. You don't know me. I don't have to. I just understand more than you think. His gaze was unreadable, but his eyes weren't cold like you expected from someone like him. You had seen his face somewhere before, the news, maybe, or one of those magazines your mom used to read on Sundays. He was a CEO, the youngest billionaire, John Jungkook, the man who built an empire from nothing. Your mother once said, he's the kind of man you admire from afar, too cold, too far above, but brilliant. And now here he was, standing in front of you like a strange dream. I have a big place, and I'm short one staff member, he said, pulling out a card. Come work there, temporarily, until you figure things out. You stare at him. Are you offering me charity? He almost smiled. If it were charity, I would hand you a coat and left. You looked down at the card, sleek, black, expensive. What do you want in return? You asked. Work, he said simply, and maybe someone who knows how to water plants. The last girl nearly drowned my bonsai. You let out a tiny bitter laugh. Why are you doing this? Is that because you probably seen me getting kicked out? His eyes dropped for a moment, as if he didn't expect that question. Because once I was the one sitting outside a hospital with no one. That shut you up. His voice was lower when he continued. Sometimes strangers are kinder than family. He stepped back, already turning. Think about it. If you decide yes, you know where to find me. Then he walked away, and you were left with nothing except his card. You didn't go after him. Your pride didn't let you, but it shattered. For 3 days, your life turned upside down. You had slept in a bus stop one night, an abandoned metro platform the next. A woman stole your bag. A man tried to follow you down a dark alley. You had never felt this lost. You had no one to call, no one to cry to, and you knew you weren't safe unless you get a place to live. So finally, you stood in front of the tallest building in the city, glass panels, golden logo, Alpha Core Holdings. You clutched the business card in your palm like a lifeline. When you stepped inside, people turned to stare. You didn't belong in their world of high heels, tailored suits, and polished marble floors, but you didn't care. Uh, I'm here to see Mr. John. You said softly. The receptionist blinked. Do you have an appointment? You showed her the card. She looked again. This time her eyes widened. How did you get this card? She was stunned because that was an exclusive card only given to special people. He gave it to me, John Jungkook. She gave you a look at how casually you called his name. Oh, please wait. He gave strict instructions. If you ever came, you go straight to his office. His office was on the 47th floor. You stood there, trying not to look as nervous as you felt. When he saw you, he didn't smile, but his shoulders dropped, like he had been waiting. You came. You looked down. I don't want sympathy, but I need work. I'll do anything. He nodded once. You'll help with the greenhouse and the private library. I don't like strangers in my space, but... He paused. You are not a stranger anymore. Your heart beat unsteadily. Why me? You whispered. Jungkook looked at you for a long time, long enough to make your breath catch. Because I know what it feels like to have nothing. He looked away then, his voice quieter. And because I also know that sometimes saving someone else is the only way to save yourself. You hadn't expected his mansion to feel like a museum. It was stunning, floors of polished marble, chandeliers that looked like they belonged in castles, glass walls that stretched up to the sky, but it was quiet. Too quiet. It didn't feel like a home. This is your room. One of the house staff, Mrs. Han, told you as she opened the door to a guest wing. Mr. John instructed it to be cleaned and prepared this morning. You blinked. The room wasn't a servant's quarter. It was twice the size of your childhood bedroom. Soft sheets, pale cream curtains, a heater quietly humming in the corner. He said to make sure it's warm. Mrs. Han added a little too carefully. And that you like tea. You frowned. How would he know that? You hadn't even told him. The older woman studied your expression and then gave a small knowing smile before leaving. You didn't take advantage of the privilege you were getting for no reason. You did your work like others. Later that evening, you sat in the greenhouse. It was the only place in the mansion that felt alive. Hundreds of plants, from climbing ivy to delicate orchids. A small fountain gurgled in the corner and glass panels. You were trying to read a book from the library, but the words kept blurring. Your fingers trembled. The grief never left. It just waited for nightfall. You hadn't eaten. You didn't feel like you deserved to. That's when a shadow fell over the glass panel. You'll kill the plants if you cry on them. You gasped slightly, wiping your face quickly. Jungkook stood near the garden entrance. His suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly tousled like he had been running his fingers through it. "I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone would come here." "It's my house," he replied simply, but there was no edge in his voice. You stood quickly, bowing your head. I didn't mean to." "Sit," he said, and you did. You watched as he walked toward a pot with dying lilies and crouched beside it. "They don't like too much sunlight," he murmured. "This corner gets harsh afternoon light." You stared at him, he noticed. "What?" he asked. "I didn't think you would know about flowers." He shrugged slightly. "I didn't think you would still be here." You looked away, voice barely a whisper. "I don't have anywhere else to go." Something passed through his eyes at that. Pain, guilt, memory. "I know the feeling," he said softly. "Did someone abandon you too?" You asked without thinking. He paused, brushing a leaf with fingers. "More like threw me out. Same difference." Your throat tightened. You didn't reply. You didn't need to. For the first time, silence felt like understanding. The next morning, you were helping Mrs. Han in the kitchen when he walked in. Every staff member froze. He never came here. "Good morning," he said, looking directly at you. You blinked, your mouth parting slightly. "Good morning, sir." He reached into the fridge, pulled out a bottle of milk and set it on the counter. "You don't like sugar in your tea?" he said, "but try honey. It helps." You blinked again. Before you could reply, he was already gone. The kitchen remained silent for a full 10 seconds. Then Mrs. Han turned toward you, wide-eyed. "Did he just talked about tea?" You nodded slowly. "And remembered how you like it." You nodded again. She leaned closer, whispering like it was gossip. "He's never even asked for a towel twice. You must be something different." Throughout the week, things changed. He walked slower when he passed you. He didn't smile, but his gaze lingered. He started eating dinner at the same time as you. Not with you, but at the same time. You could feel his presence at the long dining table, even from across it. He ordered books you mentioned in passing. One night you coughed while sweeping near his office, and the next morning a humidifier was placed in your room. He listens when you don't think he's listening. Mrs. Han told you quietly one night. He doesn't do that for anyone. He has changed a lot since you came. You didn't know what you were to him, but you knew you weren't just another worker, and for the first time in weeks, your heart beat with something unfamiliar: safety. You were watering the far corner when your hand slipped, knocking over a small glass vase. It shattered. Oh no. You dropped to your knees, trying to pick up the shield with trembling fingers. A cut appeared on your palm. "Don't touch it." You flinched. Jungkook was there again, crouched beside you. "You'll hurt yourself," he mumbled, taking your hand and pulling it away gently. He didn't let go. He looked at the blood, then looked at you. "Why are you always bleeding?" You looked down. "Because I don't know how to exist in places that don't hurt." For a second his expression cracked. He stood up slowly, walked out without a word. You thought you had done something wrong. But 5 minutes later, he returned with a first aid kit and a blanket. Come here, he said softly. You obeyed. He wrapped your hand in silence. Do you think you'll ever feel okay again? You asked. He paused. Not always, but then someone shows up, and suddenly you are not alone in the darkness anymore. You looked at him, and for the first time, he looked back like you were the light he didn't know he needed. The first clap of thunder shook the windows. You were in your room, brushing your hair, when the lights flickered once, then again, and then everything went black. You froze. For a second, it was just darkness. But then another crack, loud, violent, like the sky was splitting in half. Your breath caught, your heart raced. The storm, it wasn't just rain to you, it was memory of metal crashing, tires screeching, sirens wailing. The day your parents died, the last thing you heard before your phone dropped from your hand. Mrs. Han? You called out. Your voice was shaky, but you only received silence. Mrs. Han, is someone there? You stepped out of your room, blindly feeling the wall. But the silence was louder than the storm. The staff had retired early. No one expected this kind of blackout. Another boom, louder and closer. And suddenly your legs gave out. You sank to the floor, hands over your ears, crying, real ugly crying. Please stop, please stop. You didn't know how long you stayed there, curled up in the hallway, completely consumed by your fear. You hadn't cried like this in weeks. Not even when you were left on the streets. This was different. This was panic. This was trauma cracking open from the inside. Why are you crying like that? You flinched. The voice was deep, steady, and far too familiar. You looked up, vision blurred, only to see him, standing in the shadows at the end of the hallway. He wasn't dressed like the CEO the world admired, just a simple black sweater, joggers, and bare feet. He looked at you like you were something delicate, not pathetic, not dramatic, just hurting. You tried to wipe your tears quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I thought someone was. Your voice cracked again. You couldn't stop crying. Your hands covered your mouth as you tried to breathe through the panic, but it was no use. Come here. He said it so softly that your sobs paused for a moment. What? Come with me. You didn't argue, you couldn't. Your body moved before your brain caught up, and the next thing you knew, he was leading you down the hall by candlelight, one hand gently pressed against your back, not touching too much, just enough to guide. The fireplace crackled to life with a warm glow as you entered in the library. You sat wrapped in a thick blanket on the velvet rug, your eyes still red, your hands still shaking slightly. Jungkook sat across from you, his long legs stretched out, hair messy, shadows under his eyes. He looked focused on you. You hate storms? It wasn't a question. You nodded. Ever since the accident? You whispered. That thunder was the last thing I heard before they died. He was silent for a moment, then his voice came, low and careful. I was scared of storms too. You looked at him. You? He gave a small, almost humorless laugh. Not of thunder, but of what came after it. He looked away, jaw clenched. After my parents died, everything went dark, and I never came out of it. Your heart ached. Did no one help you? He shook his head. I was kicked out by my uncle within a week, said I remind him of failure. But I didn't cry like you. I just shut down, built walls so high no one could touch me. He looked at you then, until you. You froze. Me? You cry like it's allowed. You feel everything out loud, and somehow you remind me that I'm still human. Your breath hitched, the storm outside softened to a drizzle, but the one between you and him was just beginning. He leaned forward slowly, brushing a loose tear from your cheek with his thumb. You are not alone anymore, not tonight, not ever again. You blinked rapidly. Why do you care? You whispered, I'm no one. You are not no one, he said immediately. You are the first person who has ever looked at me without fear or greed. You never once asked me for anything, not even kindness. You opened your mouth to reply, but your heart beat too loud. He leaned closer, and I don't want to go another night without knowing what it feels like to hold someone who understands the kind of pain I live with. Your lips parted. So hold me, you whispered. And he did. The blanket slipped slightly from your shoulder, and his hand moved, slow and careful, to pull it back up, his fingers brushing your skin like silk. You didn't move away. You didn't want to. The fire crackled, and your voice, small and trembling, broke the silence. I've never felt safe before, not even with my family, but when I'm with you, he looked at you, really looked. It's like I can breathe again. Somewhere between thunder and moonlight, your lips met, not rushed, not planned, just inevitable. You were both fragile and scarred, yet in that kiss everything felt steady, whole. He pulled you gently into his lap, wrapping the blanket around both of you, as if sealing you inside a world where nothing hurt anymore. Your fingers threaded through his hair, his lips tracing every tear you never let fall. You whispered his name like a prayer, he kissed your shoulder like an answer, and that night, in the middle of the storm, you made love for the first time. It wasn't just skin against skin, it was soul meeting soul. Two abandoned hearts finally finding a home. The library glowed with firelight and candle wax under the thick blanket. You lay against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath your ear. His fingers traced slow, absent-minded circles into your back. You whispered about your childhood. He whispered about the first night he slept on the street. You kissed away each other's broken pieces. And by morning, you weren't just in his arms, you were a part of him. 3 weeks later, the storm passed, but something stayed. You and something else. You threw up in the kitchen one morning. Mrs. Hunt assumed it was food, but you knew. You knew before you even took the test. And when you saw the result, two pink lines, your hand flew to your mouth and you crumbled to the bathroom floor. I'm pregnant, you whispered. A soft smile broke through the tears. And he's going to be a father.